Going to help in a big way. He's a Yale educated guy who has helped in Connecticut in the past, and we're trying to raise 250 new members for Wolfpack. Get money out of politics. We passed the 5 states. We need to pass the 5 more. Can I see how we're 58 donors? Look, this is just $10 a month, man. That's all it is. $10 a month. You want to give more? Bless your heart. You can see. Want to give $1,000 a month? We'll take it. We'll take it. But wolf-pack.com/John. $10 a month will do it, and we need to get 250 members before the end of the show. I'm kidding. End of the year. Okay, but end of the show would be awesome. All right, now let me give you updates on some Just Democrats, and then another story that we broke from TYT Investigates, thanks to you guys over here. Okay, here comes the Justice League. We got 3 excellent candidates among the Just Democrats that I want to tell you about. They've got a lot of volunteers, but they need some full-time staff. So let's go through these folks. Charter Richardson, Florida 7th District. He's taking on a Blue Dog Democrat. I don't want any Blue Dogs. He was the head of the ACLU down there. Support him. Cori Bush, Missouri's 1st District. She led the St. Louis protests. I'm going to tell you more about that in a second. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to take down, say it ain't so joke, Crowley in New York. He's Wall Street's favorite Democrat. And Alex is going to defeat him. So how are you guys going to help? jdems.us or us, both are good, US or us, depending on however you want to pronounce it, dash TYT3, okay? So we're going to have that link for you, obviously, in the description box. Sometimes we're going to have it at, like, this corner here. There's like an eye. Sometimes that works. Click that corner, see what happens. Anyway, why do we need to go forward on this? Like, Cori Bush is running a terrific campaign in Missouri. And look, she's not a standard politician. She actually could have run for a Senate seat, but she works in her district, and she has to report to work every day. She's a regular human being. And on top of that, and on top of running for a congressional race, she went and led the protests in St. Louis over and over and over again. And she's featured in the national press for it because she deserves it. And she was there before any of the cameras showed up. She was there before the congressional run. In fact, Just Democrats picked her because we knew that she'd been there for the community all along and had led protests and is uncorrupted. So they're not taking any big donor money. They're not taking big donor money. You got to help them out with small donor donations. Otherwise, they can't win. So now, let me show you Charter Richardson. He's running in Florida's 7th District. He's running against Stephanie Murphy, one of the most conservative Blue Dog Democrats in the country. If you're in a Democratic district, you're in a progressive district, why don't you have a progressive as your congressman? Republicans won't tolerate anyone that's in a deeply red district that isn't right of Attila the Hun. So I don't know why the Democratic Party keeps asking you to bow your head and to take corporate Democrats when in a blue district, you can take anyone you like. You can have a real progressive. And Charter, like all the Just Democratic candidates, does not take corporate PAC money. So you can trust him that he's actually on your side and for the right reasons. Small donor donations wins the day. I want to give you, by the way, Charter's race is one of the top 10 races according to CNN. Gregory Krieg said, an upset here would signal a big shift in the direction of the party's progressive wing for Sunshine State Democrats. So if you're in Florida, look, in all these cases, keep volunteering. Because volunteers are going to win this race. But the reason we're doing the fundraiser now for these specific trees, they're great candidates and great races. But in order to organize the hundreds of volunteers they have, they need campaign managers. And you're going to think it's funny, like, oh, campaign managers, isn't that thing you're supposed to have right away? Yes, if you take big donor money and you take corporate money, yes, some IBM will get you your campaign manager or whatever. Sorry to IBM for throwing them under the bus. But all the companies donate. And then you can, Feinstein in California has plenty of money. She has millions of dollars. She's a campaign manager. We are doing it with small donor money. And these guys are in super competitive races. They have excellent chances of winning because of their volunteer army. But those volunteer armies need a head. We need to have full-time staffers running those volunteers. So please, jdems.us/TYT3. Again, the link will be in the description box. It'll be on Facebook on the comment section. And then I think over here somewhere. Okay, the last one for you, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. running in New York, 14th district, and she's running against Joe Crowley. Joe Crowley is Wall Street's favorite Democrat, and that district's in the Queens and the Bronx. But he doesn't live there. He lives in Virginia. He's lived in Virginia for a long, long time. His kids go to school there. He basically got appointed to that seat. That doesn't seem very democratic. And why is he high up in Democratic leadership? Because he brings in the money from Wall Street. That is not what the constituents in the Queens and the Bronx are looking for. They're looking to get represented. So if you don't want your congressman representing the donors, you want them representing you. That's why we've got the Justice Democrats and the Justice League. So go to jdems.us/TYT3, click there, and donate. Trying to get to $100,000 to be able to hire these staffers. jdems.us/TYT3, and obviously go to the description box to click that link and help out. And once you do, if they upset these conservative Democrats, even if you gave $3, you get to say, I did that, which is kind of an awesome feeling. Election night is going to be electric. There's the primary nights when some of these folks, progressive Democrats, taking on corporate Democrats, and then there's going to be the general election fights against the Republicans. Let's go do this together. All right, one more story for you guys in this segment. Okay. Now, we've told you about Mick Mulvaney. He was the director of the Office of Management and Budget. He is massively for tax cuts for the rich, says it all the time. Oh, that tax plan winds up raising tax on the middle class and the poor. Oops, did we do that? What a coincidence. Well, that wasn't enough for Mick Mulvaney, so he wants to move over to Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and Donald Trump has appointed him as the acting director, even though technically and legally he's not supposed to be the acting director. By law, the acting director is the deputy director. So they made a mess of it. It's an absolute constitutional nightmare. But why have they gone through these extra lengths and potentially illegal acts to get Mulvaney into that bureau? Because it's in the name. It's supposed to protect consumers, and they don't want that. Mulvaney in the past has called it a sick, sad joke. This agency he has come in to destroy, and has authored legislation to completely eliminate the agency. So he is there to destroy the agency, not to run it. And we told you in a recent TYT Investigates report that according to the data maintained by the Center for Responsive Politics, Mulvaney's $31,700 in donation puts him ninth on the list of members of Congress receiving donations from the payday loan industry, taking in more money than almost all House representatives and all but 2 senators. So he is owned by the payday loan industry, among the biggest contributors to his campaigns. By the way, also takes money from giant banks, also regulated by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and that's why he'd like to destroy it, because his donors are not happy with it. In fact, one of those payday loan companies, as we reported to you earlier, told Donald Trump, we want you to intercede on our behalf about a month ago when the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau set laws that would protect consumers against these payday lenders. And now the Trump administration is interceding. Now, the new report is that it turns out Mulvaney's chief of staff recently resigned, and you're not going to believe where he's going to work. It turns out he's now a lobbyist for the payday loan industry. Wow! Their corruption is so brazen. Trump ran against the swamp, and now they're taking pictures of them swimming through the swamp, having a good time, having a party, having drinks inside the swamp. So let me tell you about this particular corner of the swamp. Al Simpson, reportedly, he was the former chief of staff of Mulvaney, reportedly got Mulvaney into politics as a South Carolina state legislator and served as Mulvaney's chief of staff from 2010 through January of this year, shortly before Mulvaney left Congress to take the helm at the Office of Management and Budget. That month, Simpson became a managing director of Washington lobbying powerhouse Mercury Public Affairs. I wonder what Mercury Public Affairs is going to get paid to do. Well, let's find out. As Jonathan Larson reports at TYT Investigates, since then Simpson has registered as a lobbyist for 7 companies, 3 of which are financial firms. One of those firms is Harpeth Financial Services, a payday lender which does business as Advance Financial. So, he is, of course, hard at work trying to protect not consumers, but the payday lenders that are ripping them off. Simpson's registration form lists only a single issue on which he anticipated lobbying for Harpeth. That is Consumer Financial Protection Bureau reform. Then he calls up his former boss, goes, "Hey, I got a great idea. Why don't you just take over the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and light it on fire?" And then that way the lobbyists, he's the lobbyist, the companies that are paying me to lobby will get a great return on investment. And by the way, look, here, you'll see how much he got paid. In the month afterward, according to Mercury's most recent disclosure form, Harpeth paid $10,000 for Simpson to lobby Congress and the Office of Administration about Consumer Financial Protection Bureau reform. And look at how easily and cheap that they're bought. So the former chief of staff of Mulvaney goes and becomes a lobbyist, gets paid $10,000, and he's like, "Okay, we're not protecting consumers, that's for sure." Okay, they're trying to pass rules against payday lenders. Payday lenders, which are basically modern loan sharks. Their interest rates are in the hundreds of percent, over 300% interest rates. It's preposterous. It's insane. There used to be laws against that. At the state level, there are still laws against that. But they pay off national congressmen like Mulvaney, who then go into the administration, and their lobbyists. They pay them campaign contributions. Mulvaney, $31,000. That's all it took to buy him. The amount of money that is involved is billions of dollars. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau returned $12 billion to you guys because of fraudulent schemes that banks and other financial institutions ran. They were so fraudulent that even with their army of lawyers, the bank said, "Yeah, you got us. Okay, here's $12 billion back." That's how they protected you at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Now, you pay off Mulvaney with $30,000, you pay off his chief of staff with $10,000, and they come in and they destroy the place. That's the battle plan. One last thing. Every once in a while, you'll hear conservatives or Republicans say, "No, it's okay, we have full transparency." No, we tell you who we're getting bribed by, and then it's up to the voters, right? No, there is no transparency here. Simpson's form that he's supposed to fill out as a lobbyist did not disclose that he used to serve as chief of staff to Mulvaney. Although the Lobbying Disclosure Act requires lobbyists to disclose past work for members of Congress, Simpson's position as chief of staff is not listed even on forms filed for other clients disclosing he was lobbying Mulvaney's Office of Management and Budget directly. So, no, there's no transparency. They take the legalized bribes, they put it in their pockets, and then they turn around and they don't tell you about it. Then they pretend that they're honest actors. And all of television goes, "Oh, there's a debate about what to do with the Protection Bureau. There's is financial regulation helpful to consumers? Or is deregulation the way to go? Maybe if we let the banks have no rules at all, and consumers have no protection at all, that might help the consumers." I don't know. It's an honest debate. It's not an honest debate. We legalize corruption in this country. Wolf-pac.com to get the money out. You need to pass an amendment. Otherwise, these legalized criminals are going to come in and rob you. And that's what they're trying to do by destroying this agency. So at least we caught Al Simpson, even though he did not do what was required by the law in telling you who he actually worked for. So now, armed with that information, you at least understand what is going on here and the scam that's being played. And if you voted for Trump, thinking that he was going to protect you from the global financial elites, they're laughing their ass off at you. The head of Goldman Sachs is now the top economic advisor for Donald Trump. His Treasury Secretary worked for Goldman Sachs. He's got about 5 people in the West Wing that were from Goldman Sachs. These payday lenders have now come in and bought off the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and they are laughing at you as we speak. You won't get any more protection. Unfortunately, with no cops on the street, particularly on Wall Street, the robbers are about to go wild. Okay, I got to take a break here. When we come back, Trump does insane fake news against Muslims. So now you guys might have already seen what he tweeted out about 3 videos about Muslims doing terrible things, according to Trump, and it's from a far right wing group in the UK. But wait till you find out what those videos actually are. Amazing. All right, we'll tell you that when we come back. I'm going to rule against Siri.
Okay.
I don't use Siri. No one actually uses Siri. And every time you press that button for a little too long,
I know.
Siri, how can I help you? Just shush. It happened earlier in the post game.
I'm so over Siri. Over. And also,
Siri's kind of a bitch.
You know what? She is kind of a bitch.
Oh,
you know why? Okay, first of all, no one enjoys or is excited about setting their alarm clock to 6 a.m. But you know who is excited? Fucking Siri.
She just asked me that.
Oh.
She's like, do you want me to set your alarm clock for 6:30 a.m.? Like, no, I don't.
No, watch. Yeah, she's fucking eager to do it. Like, she's a weirdo. Watch. Set my alarm for 4 a.m.
I don't think
I didn't find any appointments for tomorrow at 4 a.m. Shall I?
You know you're on air, bitch. Like, what's going on? Okay, but usually
I shall now fuck with you.
So usually I'll be like, set the alarm for 6 a.m. She'll be like, okay, I turned it off. And it's like, why are you so excited?
There's always these weird cream cheese options. I can never just find the plain. What about salmon? Do I look like grizzly bear? Here, try this veggie. Where's the plain? Where is it? You're more of a grape drink kind of guy, right? Or try this mouthwash. Where's the plain? Do you like sexual healing? Where is the plain? Where's the plain? Where's the plain? Where is it? Where's the plain? Dude. Anna Raspberry. No, I want the plane. Supervisor! Aren't you the supervisor? Isn't the whole point of being supervisor? Why do you get to decide my cream cheese options? At what point do you decide there'd be no plain cream cheese? I don't understand. Take it easy, man. No, this is true just like with politics and anything else. If we don't stand up for ourselves, they're just gonna fuck us even harder. You're not gonna believe this. They take me out of the kitchen.
Young Turks. Jank and John with you now. We're going to carry it home here for the rest of the show together. Smegman writes that letting Trump skirt around less well-known laws is going to open up the door for him to do whatever he wants. That's why we've got the TYT Investigates crew checking in on all that stuff and reporting it for you guys. Now they're getting picked up in other parts of the media as well because their investigations are excellent. Check them out, of course. Whenever we do a story about them, the link will always be in the description box on YouTube if you're watching later. And obviously, if you remember, their other investigations are on our website. And thank you guys. Thank you for creating that team in the first place.
How much of the one?
Well,
it's awesome. They're on the Consumer Financial Network. They're super important. But I want them on net neutrality too. I want them in Puerto Rico. I want like all that. I want them going down to Panama City to investigate the hotel. Like all that.
Trust me, we're trying, brother. We actually were in Puerto Rico, hopefully.
Oh, that's cool. Yes. Nobody was there. That's true.
TYT Politics crew was. And we'll have some of those clips up for you.
She had some great interviews.
Check out TYT Politics for that. Matt said Mulvaney is going to take apart the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the Republicans and Trump are going to tell you that it's going to be good for you because they lie about regulations, of course. Regulations, there's another rule for that. I'm sorry, there's another word for that. That's law. It's the law. And so when they say we should get rid of all regulations, part of what they're saying is we should go lawless. And that's what they are. They're not for rule of law, they're for lawless.
I saw today that he's already put a freeze on new hiring, and their outreach to get money back is also put on hold. That's right now.
And John Kenyon asked, I'm a Canadian citizen, how can I help Wolfpack? Well, John, it's a fair and good question. If you're outside the country, you cannot donate to Wolfpack. And that's good. Because Wolfpack's a super PAC, they're also down 501c4, and they're aimed at destroying all the other super PACs, but we don't want super PACs taking money from outside the country. That's why you can't donate to Wolfpack outside. Can you volunteer? Sure. You're Canadian, you care about your neighbor to the south, God bless your heart, you can volunteer. So go to wolf-pack.com. Okay, John, what's next?
Well, before we jump into the big news, there's two things I want to mention just because they're important. We don't have time necessarily to delve too into one, especially because we've already been doing a lot on it. But that first one is that Republicans did vote just prior to us going live to advance the tax bill in the Senate. And so now there's going to be 20 hours of debate, and then there will be a vote. And apparently Ron Johnson, possibly some others that either had said that they were a no or that they were a maybe, seem to now be indicating that they might be in favor of the bill. So
can I say it now?
Yeah.
Of course they're in favor of giant tax cuts for their donors. I never believed Ron Johnson for a second. And he's like, I'm concerned about how this might affect small businesses. No, you're not.
Well, what do you think about the trigger, though? Where if it raises the debt too much, then they'll hike up the taxes automatically.
Oh, sure.
I think that will happen.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so the reason we bring that up, though, is that this is go time to potentially do something to stop it. And, if you go on Twitter, there's a lot of the great sources giving information about how you can reach via phone the senators' offices and things like that. In addition, also, and it's to give you an idea of the state of the world that we live in, North Korea tested another missile. This one, apparently, if it was fired at a flat trajectory, which it was not, could potentially reach almost anywhere in the mainland U.S., including Washington, D.C. Not necessarily with the added weight of a warhead on it. It's not believed that during the test it had a warhead, and that would be more difficult. We also don't know if they have the technology to miniaturize a nuclear warhead to fit on a missile like that. But that seems like big news that we unfortunately don't have time to get to because the world's falling apart. Yeah. But that's going on. Anyway, let's jump to other news. This morning, Donald Trump tweeted out 3 extremely Islamophobic videos posted to Twitter by a xenophobic right-wing British political party. We're not going to show you the videos because they're BS, but we are going to show you the tweets, and then we're going to give you information about what exactly he was spreading this morning. Let's bring up this first one. You're going to see there, video, Muslim migrant beats up Dutch boy on crutches. That really sounds bad, and obviously any violence between people is bad, but there's a bit of a lie there in that the people doing the actual arrests, and there's information about those people when they're arrested, there's no reference to them being Muslim or any religion whatsoever. Ashley Parker of the Washington Post retitled it, Brunette Dutch Boy Beats Up Blonde Dutch Boy. Yeah, no. He's not a migrant. He's born there. He's a complete lie. He's not Muslim or a migrant. Yeah.
So I believe that's what you call fake news. So Trump, with all his stupid attacks against the so-called fake news, he's the guy who invented fake news. He takes credit for inventing the word fake. But he did actually, his campaign and his Russian friends ran fake news nonstop before the election. That's where the term came from in the first place. And now here he is again, retweeting videos, smearing Muslims about a guy attacking a poor kid on crutches. That guy actually did attack that kid on crutches for reasons that are unfathomable, right? And it turns out not a Muslim, not a migrant. Donald Trump's a liar, and he wants to smear Muslims because he hates them, and he's a bigot.
Yeah. Now let's go to the second tweet. You're going to see here, it's from a video of this guy destroying that Virgin Mary or whatever. That apparently did actually happen. It's believed to have happened, the video, in Syria in 2013. So, yes, that guy did destroy that little statue. That's terrible. I would say it probably ranks pretty low on the degree of terribleness of things happening in Syria back in 2013, let alone now. Seems a bit odd for the President of the United States to tweet out that video 4 years later. After nothing.
It gets better. So it turns out that guy is part of a group that is anti-Assad, backed by the U.S. government. Oops! So that's one of our allies destroying a Virgin Mary statue. Now, by the way, I was told by a lot of folks here on the right wing, and by the way, and a point that I actually totally agree with, and I've said many times on my own, that Muslims are overly sensitive about people drawing the Prophet Muhammad. Because, hey, look, if you're a Muslim and you don't want to draw the Prophet Muhammad, God bless, or Allah bless, that's up to you. But I'm not Muslim, I can draw whatever I like. Now, the Muslims so sensitive about a drawing. What did you do to our statue? How could you do something to our statue? Oh my God, what happened? All of a sudden you're a snowflake. Okay, well, why do you care about the statue so much? It sounds like you're like one of those Muslim fundamentalists who's like, oh, hey, the drawings! Right?
I want to go on the record, I don't like statues being smashed of any kind. It's the art, I think we should just leave it alone. I don't necessarily like all of it.
Yeah. But they're, whatever. Look, if it's a monument of a Confederate soldier who loved slavery, do whatever the hell you want with it, okay? In an orderly and civil way. Religious statues, I don't care. I mean, well, if they're historical artifacts, then I care.
Yeah,
like what the Taliban did to historical artifacts in Afghanistan was despicable.
Yeah, that was terrible. Yeah. Also, there's a distinction between don't destroy it and put it in, a courtyard or something for the government. I don't necessarily think you need to do that. Okay, so, by the way, of course, Trump tweeted this because he cares about, these religious artifacts and things being damaged, which is why I look forward to him showing videos of the mosques and synagogues that have been burned out, bombed out, and shot up recently. But that's probably not going to happen.
Oh, right, but to be fair, that didn't happen 4 years ago or in another country. That's happening here by his far-right buddies. But somehow he's not tweeting
about it. It's weird.
Huh.
Maybe he doesn't want to politicize it. You gotta wait 4 years.
He's sending out this video. He's, obviously doesn't like this Muslim guy. He's outraged by it. Well, I don't know if you know this. You're the president of the United States of America. You're the one funding his group. You want to pull his funding? No, I just want to pretend that all Muslims hate all Christians. And while Trump, you're the head of the government. You're funding him. Okay, so if you got anyone to blame, it's yourself.
Yeah, and then we have this third tweet. This is probably the most egregious one, showing an Islamist mob pushes teenage boy off a roof and beats him to death. So this apparently also did actually happen. They were, I believe, pro-Morsi demonstrators in Egypt, again back in 2013. It did actually happen, but it has absolutely nothing to do with what Donald Trump is doing right now. And look, to some extent, some people might say you're focusing too much on his tweets. But I personally, maybe I'm still naive, I think that when the President of the United States randomly tweets out 3 videos purely to drive anti-Muslim sentiment, that's a bad thing, that we should probably worry about it. I'm not the only one. I've read a report that some of the lawyers challenging his Muslim travel ban are going to be using these tweets as evidence of his implicit bias against Muslims. And imagine if you're a Muslim American waking up this morning and finding out that he just went and found 3 videos trying to make Muslims look bad. JR in the production meeting said this is like somebody going on World Star Hip Hop and just finding, a video of 2 people in the inner city fighting and then saying, look at these African Americans, you should be scared of them.
Yeah, don't give many ideas, John.
It's complete BS.
Almost certainly what Trump would also do.
Yeah, he might do that.
Yeah, so now, look, by the way, the last video, let's be fair. So first of all, it is horrific. It's true. They did throw that kid off the roof. Okay. Now, and this is what Donald Trump and Bill Maher talk about all the time, which is, hey, we need moderate Muslims to speak out against the fundamentalist Muslims. And those are fundamentalist Muslims that threw a poor kid off the roof. We need accountability. So now here's the part of the story you didn't hear. It turns out the Egyptian government captured the guys who threw the kid off the roof. And you know what they gave him? They gave him the death penalty. Yeah. How's that for accountability? So the guy you see in the video throwing the kid off the roof was executed. Yeah. He's already dead.
Amidst a wave of other arrests of people doing those sorts of things.
So
I don't know how much faith I necessarily have in the legal process, but it seems like in this case they did the right thing.
But the whole point of Donald Trump is all Muslims are bad. So I'll pretend that this guy in the first video is Muslim when he's not Muslim. I made it up. I don't care because I despise Muslims and I want you all to hate them no matter what they do. The second video is a guy basically Trump is funding. Okay, and the third video, like, but did the Muslims do anything about this? Yes, they did. They gave the guy the death penalty. Yeah. So, look, the guy Trump is a wild bigot. He's a bigot, racist of the first order. There's no debate about it. And you take any other category here and you replace the Muslims with it, and it is atrocious in any context. Now, I had to do this game because a lot of people in America do hate Muslims. Most of the right wing does, and so you have to play these games because they're like Muslims. They don't count. They're not real people. They're all evil and monsters, etc. Yeah. So let's replace Muslim with Christians. Let's say that they're in a fundamentalist Muslim country. Their leaders are putting out propaganda videos about Christians doing terrible things. We gotta go get the Christians. Look at what they're doing. Yeah. Turns out it wasn't even Christians doing it, right? They're like, no, you can't do that. We gotta protect the Christians. We have to protect the Christians in Iraq, right? And you would be right. We should. The Yazidi. We have to protect the Yazidi. Now take out Muslim and put in another group, Jews. If the president is sending out 3 tweets about how bad the Jews are, and it turns out the first video isn't about someone who's Jewish, but he's like, look at the Jew doing this. Oh, God, that's terrible.
Let's recall that he has tweeted anti-Semitic things before, including the Star of David in it, about global financial elites and conspiracies.
Yes. No, look, he said in Charlottesville about neo-Nazis that there are very fine people among them. Of course, he's also anti-Semitic. Oh, but his daughter is Jewish. He grew up an anti-Semite. So his daughter happened to marry a Jewish guy. And you know what? At the Republican Jewish gathering, he said, I like to negotiate, and if any room knows about renegotiating, it's this room. What the hell does that mean, right? He is such an unbelievable bigot. But we take this as like, ho-hum, oh yeah, he attacks Muslims, but come on, really, is what a lot of right wing and unfortunately some of the media treat it that way. When if it was about any other religious group, people would be calling for his resignation nonstop. It wouldn't work, but I don't want us to get used to this monster, as he is. He's a monster.
Yeah, and it's bizarre. Some people, there's a tool online where if you want to see what Trump's Twitter feed looks like, based on the people he follows, what is he seeing? You can look at that, and it's a hall of insanity. But you can do that. But people are asking, how is he even coming across these conspiracy theory posts in the first place?
Yes.
I mean, you saw that the name of the woman, one of I believe the deputy directors of Britain First, which is a UK xenophobic right-wing political party, she, back in a few years ago, was charged in the UK for religious aggravated harassment, so right up his alley. But that party, in one election, got 51 votes. It's not a big thing. Yeah, they spread stuff online. How is he coming across in the first place? And then, oddly enough, I know this is going to be a weird thing, but it's part of a trend. If we can skip to the last graphic in the section 25, Britain First has a website where they spread propaganda like this, and recently they deleted these pro-Putin posts from last year. Because, of course, for some reason, if you're a right-winger, even in the UK, you have to be, like, so pro-Putin. And they're big fans of him until they deleted the post to hide it.
No, I actually think there's a second possibility. So, yeah, these right-wingers, they're fascist by nature, and they look at Putin and they think, ooh, that's a fascist demigod. Keep Russia Russian. Why do you care if you're Britain first?
It was becoming oddly Chilean over the past few years, I thought.
Britain first, Russia second. What? No, there's some chance, that they're financed by the Russian government. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just saying that it's a second possibility. And we know why they're backing Trump and why they're doing the anti-Muslim propaganda. Because they're financed by the Russian government. It's not rocket
It's
science.
possible. I think it's just
possible.
ideologies run in parallel. I think there's a lot of that. What you said, they bow into authority. They love the strong man. They wish that they could have a person like that in the UK.
Look, guys, your choice. Either Trump retweeted this group that is pro-fascist or paid off by the Russian government.
We got a poll.
Oh, and by the way, and those are not exaggerations. This group also raids mosques in Britain. What the hell does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they do things called Christian patrols. So if the fascists were to take over Britain, and obviously, hopefully, it'll never happen. But if they were to, these guys would jump in and be like, "Yes, time for fascism." And Trump's like, "Wonderful. What can I retweet for you?"
Yeah.
And how did Trump even get to this stuff? To get to your question of these insane anti-Muslim videos from this tiny little group.
Yeah.
So two possibilities there. One is Stephen Miller or Steve Bannon are like, "Hey, Donald, you're gonna love this anti-Muslim bigotry. Let's spread it everywhere, right?" Which is not such a great scenario. Or the second scenario is, "Donald, we would like you to retweet something we found in Britain." Okay, what the hell kind of accent was that?
I mean, you nailed the accent, but I'm not sure that's what's going on. But you never know. Oh, and one final thing on this. So we reported recently over the past few weeks. There's been some new statistics on hate crimes over the past year or two, and both anti-Muslim and anti-Semitic hate crimes are skyrocketing, both during his run, but also since he became president. And so, like, the people who will say that these tweets don't matter, that, it's a distraction, we should really focus on something else, like, they don't realize that this does have a cost. It's a cost in blood, in some cases. People being killed in our own country because of hatred against Muslims and against Jews. It's people who live terrorized because their Jewish community center has had 10 bomb threats over the past year and things like that. These are people's lives who are literally being destroyed or, in some cases, ended, and they're being antagonized. They're being led by the president on this issue. Okay, why don't we go to the reaction? Okay. This morning, Donald Trump's retweets of the Islamophobic videos by a xenophobic British political party has been widely condemned by a number of different groups, defended by others. We're going to touch on both. The first is by the office of the UK Prime Minister Theresa May, who said, "It is wrong for the president to have done this," and says the UK citizens overwhelmingly reject the prejudiced rhetoric of the far right. And so that is a good response. Obviously, the effect, as we've been talking about, of Britain First and, people who agree with them in the UK is something that Theresa May and others there are going to be very focused on. They're concerned about the growth of that, and they don't like to see it being amplified by the US president.
So Theresa May is right-wing, and she's the establishment basically in the UK. So I've got a lot of issues with her. But she's the kind of establishment that we used to know, the devil we knew, which was sane, slowly crushing it with lower wages.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, we know how to fight back against that. Donald Trump is a totally different wild animal. And he's like, let's, look at these Muslims. And one of the videos, the guy's not even Muslim, yada, yada. So Theresa May is forced into a position where she has to be the sane moderate, where she's like, wait, we just want to make more money. There's no reason to hate Muslims. It's weird. Stop doing that. Yeah, right. So now it makes us go, oh, way to go, Theresa May.
Yeah. I don't want to give her too much credit, but I'm glad that she's speaking out against this, especially because as a prominent, especially female politician, there's every chance there's going to be 10 tweets about her tomorrow morning. So we'll see about that. Not yet. So that's Theresa May. But the White House did put out a statement because of people's problems with these retweets. So here is Sarah Huckabee Sanders to lie to you.
Whether it's a real video, the threat is real, and that is what the president is talking about. That's what the president is focused on, is dealing with those real threats. And those are real no matter how you look at it.
So does it matter if it's a fake video?
Look, I'm not talking about the nature of the video. I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. The threat is real, and that's what the president is talking about. is the need for national security, the need for military spending, and those are very real things. There's nothing fake about that.
I know that is her job, and it's the same as Sean Spicer. I hate press secretaries because she knows she is goddamn wrong. She is lying. The video is fake. It was known to be fake before he retweeted it. I'm not saying, well, whether the video is real, the threat is real. So whether I'm spreading fake news or not, I really think it's important that you hate Muslims, so I can show you whatever I want. I can just put, a scene from True Lies or something, and maybe it didn't really happen, but you should be scared about these brown people. That's insanity. It's coming out of the press secretary of the White House.
Now we've unfortunately gotten to a point where we're going in circles, and the reason is, Trump says, "Oh, CNN, MSNBC are fake news." Then he literally puts out fake news. And then his press secretary says, "Who cares? I don't care that the videos are fake. The issue is real. Anyway, what's the issue? The issue is we should all be scared of Muslims, even though they didn't do some of these things in the video." Yes. Well, there's one part that's true, which is the bigotry is real, that you hate Muslims is real, that you discriminate and are racist is real. And so she's like, well, the videos are fake, but our racism is real.
Yeah.
Right? So we got that part, but it doesn't matter. It's not going to break through. In fact, this will probably help Trump with his voters.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. They're like, oh, who cares that it's fake? We don't care. We don't care. Like Trump, we hate Muslims. We're done with it.
They don't care, and increasingly, it doesn't matter. And so that's why, even though this video, in a very real sense, is less, this video is being retweeted, this topic that we're talking about, is less immediately bad than some of the other things we're going to talk about on the show. This almost pisses me off more, because we're in, not even 1 year into the 7-dimensional chess of let the fascists take over the country for 4 or 8 years and we'll see what happens. Thinking that the only difference between politicians and parties is where they are in the spectrum between progressive and conservative. It's an incredibly simplistic, unrealistic way of looking at the world. There are other important factors, like whether you have any respect whatsoever for truth, whether there is anything that is verifiable about the world. You can have a discussion with someone who is different than you on the political spectrum, so long as both of you have some commitment to reality, to the real world, to not telling blatant falsehoods on a regular basis. And when I see these, when we have the reaction to the Pocahontas, and she says it's not a racial slur, and then he puts out these videos, and they say that it doesn't matter if the videos are real or not. I seriously don't know if we will ever return to a point where what we say matters, that there are consequences for what you say, and that we'll be able to actually have some sort of discourse as a country. Between right and left, between parts of the right and parts of the left, nothing matters anymore. And after 4 years of this, after 8 years of this, will you be able to talk to anyone? Will there be any persuasion left? I increasingly don't think that there will be.
And look, if you're on the side, it happens sometimes on the left. Certainly more rare, but it does. But if mainly on the right, overwhelmingly on the right, if you're on the side of, I don't care what facts are, okay, just at least own up to the fact that you're on the lying side. You're on the side filled with falsehoods because you can't win an argument if you're in the reality-based world. So you have to create an unreal world. I mean, just what happened the other day with Gateway Pundit and all the blogs and spreading fake stories. They don't care. That's what they do. If you see a right-wing website, you can't trust anything in it. Almost all the right-wing websites are filled to the rim with lies. So if you're on that side, okay, I guess you own up to it. You just don't like this planet, so you'd like to be on a different planet where you guys are right, but you're not.
It's incredibly discouraging when our career is just trying to spread information, educate people, all that. But the goal is that hopefully you can just appeal to a few people, a percent of the other side, to try to expand the boundaries of respect for truth, respect for human values, these progressive principles that we have, and to see the entire. It's not even like we're trying to get to the people. It's the floor is dissolving beneath us. Everything is changing in horrific ways, and there are people thinking that this is just fun and games, that we can just do this for a while, that everything will be fine. We'll let Trump be the president for 4 years, for 8 years, and then we can just go back to normal, and maybe we can have a conversation about the minimum wage. Maybe we won't be able to have any conversation. This is every time we have a production meeting, it is so goddamn scary thinking about what the future will be like. We've always had problems, both as a country and, when we are trying to put together our show, there's been no time where things are great, where things are hunky-dory. But we're in a terrible place right now. And I feel beset from all sides by people who have no respect for the truth, no respect for expertise, no respect for any norms whatsoever. Anyway, we should probably take our break.
Yep. Now that we've told you that there are no norms left. Okay, so when we come back, the last window on freedom is closing. Bad news to worse news. So the state of net neutrality and how close they are to ending it when we return. Now, you guys are going to think, especially my early behind-the-scenes footage, like, I already went and looked at the comments in the member section. He goes, oh, he's high, he's drunk. I swear to you I'm not. Well, I just tell you if I am.
Yeah.
Right? And so I get goofy in the behind-the-scenes stuff.
What's the need for the butter with this pretzel? This is already super fattening it up. You don't need to put butter on this thing. Why'd they make me do it this? Why'd they make me do it?
I'm just saying that this is known as the rear end guy. There's no way that every person he knows doesn't call him the rear end guy. I want you guys to see if you could see the lightning bugs. Whoa. Light them up. Light them up.
Is it true, Ritzy? I will now watch it later.
Fitzy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat. Imagine him, isn't it? Hey, Kiki Cat. Kiki Cat. Alright, this is Kiki Cat signing out.
Game of Thrones, which will be back next year, is up for Emmys. They should just give everyone an Emmy in Game of Thrones, send them home.
Yeah, and have the rest of that.
Absolutely.
But then I was thinking about, what would I be paired with? And it's maybe my Roku remote and my cell phone.
Are you happy going back to jail?
If I ever go to jail.
People he's you gotta diversify your funds and stuff like that. Kind of like sauce protection. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. He raises the price of prison cigarettes. Yeah, 5,000%.
You have in common with your daughter? I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
You said I had small hands. They're not small. I never heard that one before.
Hey Dave, as you can probably see, Skype froze. Froze to crash.
I'm watching a documentary on the Vietnam War, and there was a TV journalist in the middle of some tiny little village in Vietnam doing live TV as the soldiers were burning the Vietnamese huts. And it didn't crash. And that was 1965, and he was in Vietnam.
back on the Young Turks. Cenk and John with you guys as I continue to take notes. Okay, I've got 2 tweets for you guys because we've got a lot of news for you. Chris Allen writes in, they're not regulations, they're protections. I like that framing, Chris. Nice job. And Miri with a very random tweet. It's 4:20 my time. You know what that means. Well, I do, Miri. I guess enjoy.
We're starting the second block, I assume?
Or something else. We here in LA have 25 minutes left before that moment.
Yeah.
I hear Jimmy Doors in the building. Is Jimmy in the building?
It was.
Okay, all right.
It's got to be legal here soon, right? Soon?
Yeah, very, very soon.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
Yes. All right. Thanks, guys. All right. What's next?
Praise Jesus. Okay. Net neutrality. Unfortunately. With all that's going on in the news, we can't allow ourselves to forget that this is also the set of just a few weeks that will determine the life or death of net neutrality going forward, because the FCC is looking to destroy it, and that is coming up very soon. With that in mind, I've got bad news for you. And that has to do partially with how people view the topic of net neutrality, but also maybe why they view it that way. And that has to do with the coverage or lack of coverage in the media. And this is mostly coming from the great work of Media Matters in cataloging this. Let's bring up this first graphic. You're going to see the broadcast news networks that NBC didn't talk about at all, not for 1 second. ABC somehow found a way to talk about it for 25 seconds. I don't even know what that would be for 25 seconds.
I do,
yeah. And then we get 2 minutes out of them. CBS, right? Yeah, I don't know the logos. I think it's CBS. But it's not a lot of time. It's really not a lot of time. Now, that's the broadcast networks. Now, thankfully, the cable news networks did talk about it more, although it's not that much better. MSNBC was actually the best. They far outpaced the coverage of net neutrality compared to CNN and Fox News. From originally being reported on the Rachel Maddow show, this most recent push on November 20th, they have since spent nearly 47 minutes on net neutrality, which, when you consider that these networks all have 24 hours and repeat the same stories over and over, it seems low even then. But let's compare that 47 minutes to CNN, which devoted approximately 10 minutes, and Fox News, which spent a little more than 11 minutes. However, that included 2 interviews with Ajit Pai, who's going to destroy net neutrality, on Fox and Friends. I'm sure it was a substantive deep dive. And Pai gave no other interviews and segments included in the study. And so the raw numbers, maybe 10 minutes and 11 minutes sounds good, but if that is basically purely from the point of view of the person who wants to kill net neutrality, maybe it would be better if they didn't talk about it at all.
Yeah, of course Fox is on the side of giant media companies who'd like to control the internet and pass their own regulations and not let the government protect our interests and basically protect the internet as it is. That's not surprising. NBC not running any stories on it when they're owned by Comcast, one of the internet service providers, also not surprising. But credit to MSNBC. So they're also owned by Comcast, but they spent the most amount of time on that issue. So maybe not enough by our standards, but still way better than the rest. So credit to them, especially because they're owned by Comcast.
Yeah, and interesting, I believe that you already reported this, but we should repeat that Comcast recently deleted their 3-year-old no paid prioritization net neutrality pledge, where they said that they would not have tiers, basically, where if you pay more, you get more, or more likely, if you don't pay more, you get less. That's usually how that works out. And oddly enough, it's a weird coincidence, they deleted that pledge on the same day the FCC said they were going to destroy net neutrality. Weird how that works out.
Yeah, and I like how while Obama was in charge and while they were pretending that they were going to be moral actors, like, no, we'll protect the internet on our own because we care about the public. Okay, they're like, oh, we don't have to care about the public anymore. Trump's in charge. Yeah, we were just kidding. Obviously, we change our own laws anytime we want. It's just they're not actual laws. And so we changed our rule and we decided that we can slow down your website.
Yeah, and I mean, if this gets destroyed and we start to see those tiers of service and the vast majority of us end up on a crappy tier where it's not that they're building new higher speed things for those who pay more, they will find ways to cut your speed now and probably charge you more for it even then. That's going to affect all areas of the internet. Our show, porn and Netflix, which is the vast majority of what most people do, but I automatically think about people who are debating whether they can afford to have the internet in the first place. Maybe they don't have it yet. The U.S. has lower rates than a lot of other parts of the world. Or schools that are considering hooking up more internet-capable computers. Like, think about those people and what will end up happening to their experience. Like if they're trying to use the internet for education, for instance, doing classwork and things of that sort. Like think about how much we already have this huge inequality in terms of educational outcomes between classes, and it can only get worse. The internet is supposed to be the great equalizer, but it's not going to be equal anymore. So that's going to be great for a lot of Americans.
So before we get to other parts of the story and what Americans think about net neutrality, I just want to give you an avenue to fight back. So one thing you can do is you can sign a petition that, let's go to graphics 16 through 19, Jesus. A petition that the Just Democrats are doing. So these are the guys who are uncorrupted. They don't take corporate PAC money, so they don't represent corporations. They represent you guys. JustDemocrats.com/net neutrality. The petition says the FCC under the leadership of Trump-appointed Chairman Ajit Pai is set to end net neutrality with a vote on December 14th. This move by the government agency will effectively sell the American people out to large ISP conglomerates like Comcast and Verizon, who will be able to charge websites to reach users at faster speeds. Now, this is interesting. If you guys didn't know, they point out, luckily, Congress has the power to reverse any decision made by the FCC through a congressional resolution of disapproval and can also apply political pressure. Please sign this petition and call your congressperson to demand that they do everything in their power to stop the nonsense of Trump and Pai from destroying the internet, or there will be consequences. And now, by the way, you could, Ajit Pai's not going to listen, but you could email him, be civil, ajit.pai@fcc.gov. And the vote's on December 14th. This is the building, Federal Communications Commission, 445 12th Street Southwest, Washington, D.C., 20554. Look, let's stop there because, look, what do we have left? They're inviting disaster, right? So there's all these comments that were sent to the FCC. John's going to tell you about that in a second, and what a joke that turned out to be. Okay, so they don't care. Most people are against it. They don't care.
Democrats and Republicans are against it.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah, voters are against it. They don't care. So what do the Republicans do whenever they're in a bad situation? They get physical. So the most famous instance is in Florida, they started the recount in 2000, and a bunch of Republican lobbyists and staffers get together, and they went and circled the building in Miami-Dade to stop the recount, and it worked. They pretended to be real Americans who were outraged that we were counting the vote, as if a thing like that exists, right? And they shut down the vote. And it turns out if they had recounted all of Florida, Al Gore would have been president. And it worked. So, okay, well then surround the FCC building on December 14th. Don't let them take the vote. So don't do anything physical to any human being, please, 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 okay? So, you know, we're on the left. We don't believe in physical action against human beings, okay? But on the other hand, the FCC building, look, if we had any kind of semblance of democracy here, you know what other countries do? They pour into the streets. There's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. There should be 100,000 people surrounding the FCC building going, go, see if you can take the vote now. Okay? That's the only thing left.
Yeah. Look, realistically, we should have, I don't know if it needs to be a constitutional amendment, and maybe this is just going to make it sound like a geek, but there's a variety of rights that we need to have. One of them is the right to, unrestrained access to the internet. It's not an optional thing. This ain't the early 90s. This isn't just for, people who want to play Doom or something like that. You need this for every area of life, from commerce, business, school, relationships, increasingly, everything. And one of the reasons I think that they might be able to squeak it through right now is, one, is we allowed Trump to be elected, and we knew that this would happen since he spoke out in 2014 against net neutrality. But also that people have been worn down by multiple times that we've already had this discussion. Under Obama, this came up multiple times, and we put pressure on the government, and they went in the right direction. Obama and the FCC at that point went in the right direction. And so it just keeps coming up over and over and over, and this time they might actually succeed.
So the petition, we'll have the link down in the description box on YouTube and in the comment section on Facebook. But let me tell you where we are on the polls and what Americans think about this. A poll from Morning, this will go to Graphic 32. It's a poll from Morning Consult and Politico, released on Wednesday, found that 52% of registered voters support net neutrality regulations, compared with 18% who say they don't. Now, the main issue there is that most people don't know what it means. And
40% don't have an opinion.
Yeah, and so 46% that they've heard a lot or some about net neutrality recently, that means the majority of Americans have not heard about it. And so, partly because of what John pointed out, which is that the media is hardly covering it at all. So, since they didn't see it on TV, a lot of older Americans, they never heard about it. So, whereas the people who did hear about it, the numbers are overwhelming, 52 to 18 on our side. In fact, 55% of Democrats are for net neutrality, that's keeping the internet as it is. But so are 53% of Republicans. Yeah. The Republicans go, wait, no, don't take away my right-wing websites. You think those big cable companies are going to care about your right-wing blogs? No, you're first on the chopping block. They don't like your bigotry. That it costs them customers. Yeah. So that's why actual voters hate this thing. Now, which leads us to the hilarious situation, which is graphic 34, about what happened when they asked for comments of the FCC. But first, let me give you a little bit of context. Last time they did this in 2014, a lot of people sent in comments. They sent in about 450,000 comments overall, and they were almost all for keeping net neutrality. And so the Republicans on the commission looked at that and go, when you ask for comments, it doesn't turn out well for us, right? They like the internet. They want to keep it as it is. Yeah. We tried to do our propaganda. We sent Ajit Pai on Fox News, and we did all that stuff about, oh, no, keeping the internet as it is would be government regulation. Instead, let Verizon and Comcast do any regulation they like, but only for their benefit and not yours. Oh, damn, that didn't work. So this time, they asked for comments, but now there are bots. So they get 22 million comments, but let's look into that. Pew Research Center found out, and this is reported by The Hill, the organization found that of the 21.7 million comments submitted to the FCC on the Obama-era rules this year, just 6% were unique. The other 94% were duplicate comments. Wow. Okay, now to give you context, which side has the duplicate comments? Now, one instance was 2.8 million people sent the same comment because John Oliver did a segment on it. Which was awesome! Yeah. Okay? That's a lot of people, man. Yeah. God bless John Oliver.
Considering that he does like 8 minutes of video a year, he devoted a lot of it to net neutrality going back through the years. So he deserves a lot of credit for that.
So those are actually human beings who got worked up by John Oliver, bless his heart, and said, yes, I want to keep net neutrality. Now let's look at the rest. The 7 most common messages found in the record comprise 38% of all the comments. Just 7, right? 6 of those, one was John Oliver's fans. 6 of those were anti-net neutrality messages submitted a combined 5.5 million times.
Maybe the people really don't like net neutrality.
Yeah, maybe they were listening to Rush Limbaugh, and he's like, oh, who needs the internet? 5.5 million people got on and said, oh, no, I'm going to send the same exact message, right? Yeah. No, or perhaps those big internet service provider companies were like, oh, there's a thing called the bot where we can pretend the people are on our side. Send the same 5.5 million messages saying, oh, I hate freedom on the internet. Please slow down all my websites. I don't want to watch Netflix. Oh, I want it to be really slow. Porn, yuck. No, slow that down. I don't want that either. Okay?
Bots are people too.
Yeah. Right-wing and left-wing sites that don't agree with the establishment. I hate those. Please let Verizon and Comcast control them.
See, look at this elitist live over here. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I watch things online, like Westworld, the plot's really complicated. It's hard to follow. It's nice when it pauses all the time for like 10 seconds and buffers. It gives me time to think about the plot, figure out what's going on. I have a couple of other numbers, though. 7.7 million comments were submitted from mail domains attributed to the website fakemailgenerator.com.
Gee, I wonder where that number is from. I can't quite tell.
Also, and it's interesting to find out, sometimes there's geographic differences in how much people care about an issue. Like some issues, in California they care a lot about it. Some in Florida they care a lot about it. In this case, it was from somewhere else, though. 445,000 comments came from Russian email addresses. So it turns out they just really care about stopping net neutrality in Russia. It's weird how that works out.
It is kind of weird. It's funny how...
By the way, that's more than all the comments that came around the last time the FCC solicited comments came from Russian email addresses.
Now, do you think the Russians really care about making sure that Verizon and Comcast make more money?
Yes.
No. Okay. But somehow, whatever Trump supports, there's websites in Russia that also support it. What a weird coincidence. And so, look, you guys, for the people who do understand net neutrality and understand that it stands for freedom on the internet and keeping things as they are on the internet, for those folks, when Ajit Pai and those clowns go around saying, "Oh, we have a lot of comments from fake.com saying that they just think net neutrality is terrible. They just don't want the internet to stay as it is." You think we're not going to catch you? You think we're not savvy enough to figure out where it's coming from? Mm-hmm. So in this case, Pew Research Center did a wonderful job. Yeah, but you're going to get caught either way. To them, it's just a joke. It's just a way of, how do I do propaganda? Enough of a fig leaf for me to do whatever my literal corporate masters told me to do, because Ajit Pai worked for them before. He will work for them again. They're the donors to the Republicans who are supporting this. And when they go out, they'll probably work as lobbyists for these same companies. Yeah. So when people talk about revolution, this is it. I mean, you need a revolution so that the corporations don't take over every single part of our lives. Yeah. They've already captured the government. Now they're going to capture the internet. And that's who's the only people fighting back? Look, a lot of folks online give them credit. And by the way, yes, right wing and left wing sites. So bless their hearts. And yes, Google and Facebook are the good guys in this case, and Netflix. They're all fighting for net neutrality. But also on the political side, they're just Democrats, because the corporate Democrats are like, "Oh, it's bad," right? But they also take corporate money. Just Democrats don't take corporate money, so they care. JusticeDemocrats.com/net neutrality. The link is in the description box. Sign the petition. Find any way you can to fight back.
Why don't we take a break so that they have time to go sign the petition?
Sounds good. Okay, when we come back, if you thought all this news was bad, it's going to get dark. Slavery's back. We're going to explain it to you. It is, in fact, unfortunately, literal. All right, that when we return.
Welcome to the Control Room exclusive members coverage of 280 Postgame live from Rebel headquarters in sunny Los Angeles. So Jason, the air is electric after yesterday's postgame.
He's talking about Miami. You know, the only thing about this, Jason, is we've heard the Miami stories. I'm looking at Kasperian's interest here. She's giving him the cordial glance to the side, but I just don't know if it's really there.
Oh, that's where the vagina is.
That joke landed like Apollo 13 there. And Kasperian gives him the courtesy laugh, gives him the Edwin way.
Had you had sex at that point when you took that class?
Anyways, so
hold a minute. He's found an opening. Is he finding his way to come back, Jason? Jake, you're coming back. With a comment, no one would have seen this coming.
And he's in the mood, and there's some music in the background. He's got the sideburns, he's got the long hair.
He won't find himself. There's no way he's ready to. I mean, I've He's got it. It's unbelievable.
Every dog has a day, and this dog is having the best day of his damn life.
That was an outstanding postgame. If tonight's postgame is anything like last night, we're in for another.
Exactly right, Francis. And don't forget to check out the TYT postgame after the Young Turks every weekday on TYTnetwork.com/members-live. Hey, what's up? Aaron, what do you like better? The Ravens or the Ravens? Go.
We talk about TYT Army being so strong. Usually they help us run our show. Now they're going to help us run the country.
Like this.
It's time that we reclaim democracy for the people.
We had a huge victory for Wolfpack.
When Lincoln said this was a country by, of, and for, he said of the people, not of corporations.
Our representatives don't represent us. Whoa! Democracy!
United!
We are! Too strong! There's thousands of volunteers. You need to be among them.
With Wolfpack, the mission is so clear.
Money is killing our democracy. 96% of Americans want it. When you get the power back, oh, that feels good. This is just the beginning. Go get them, man. Up and at them. Knock, knock. We're coming for them! Wolfpack TheDarkTerritory.com.
My hands, if they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee you. You said I had small hands? They're not small, are they? I never heard that one before.
Back on the Young Turks, Cenk, Uber, and John Idarola with you guys. Trey Beatty says, I appreciate John sharing his frustration of the current state of affairs and concern of the uncertainty about how this is affecting our immediate and longer-term future. I rant like this to myself and others daily. I'm sure most TYT viewers do it too. Riley Grady writes, the freedom of information was one of the last bastions of freedom left. Sad but not surprised. And Brian Newton puts it a little bit more clearly and succinctly when he says, we're fucked. Members of the day are John Paulson and Catlin Yoder. We'll have a great post game for you guys as we always do. We also have Old School tonight. So make sure you check that out live if you're a member. I thought we had a great Old School, pre-Thanksgiving Old School. And hey, thank you for putting that up. JustDemocrats.com/Allison. Can I see 181 by the end of the show? That's really not asking for much. Okay? So if you can participate, that's to take down one of the most conservative Democrats in the country. That's Dianne Feinstein.
What's the 203,000 for?
It's for something.
It's a reference to something?
It is a reference to something. I just forgot. No, that's why it's exact, right?
Okay.
It is to get something.
That's true. Oh, is it to get access to the lists?
No, the voter rolls was like $147,000.
Okay.
This is to get something else on top, which I should look into. Anyway,
probably important.
All right, so JustDemocrats.com/Allison for that. And of course, if you want to become a member and check out all of our shows, including Postgame and the Old School tonight, tytnetwork.com/join. Yes. Okay, what's next?
Okay, now we're going to move into some dark territory. This week, CNN released a video apparently showing the sale of African migrants into slavery taken in a Libya market. Let's watch.
Big strong boys for farm work, he says. 400. 700. 700. 800. The numbers roll in. These men are sold for 1,200 Libyan pounds, $400 apiece.
So, look, this is perhaps one of the darkest turns in this ongoing migrant crisis. I mean, we've been reporting on it for years, and obviously there's the thousands and thousands of people who've lost their lives, trying to move across the Mediterranean. There have been reports all throughout this year of people being blackmailed and held hostage. When I was in Oslo reporting on the humanitarian organization meeting, there was a woman who had helped to free literally thousands of people from those sorts of like blackmailings and hostage takings. But to see a slave market operating in 2017 is particularly dark.
So I'd gone down to Charleston, South Carolina last year, and I visited an old slave market and now turned into a museum. And they explained how they auction people off, and sometimes they separate families. And by the way, it's not in that video, but they are separating families as well. And what is not talked about a lot because it's so uncomfortable is the rape that happens for migrants in present day throughout the world, and also in slavery in the old times. Vastly underreported, under-talked about because it makes people uncomfortable was the non-stop rape of slaves. And as I was going through that slave market, then I saw this report, and CNN did a great job here, and full video in the description box, the link to it. It sounded just like, exactly like that, just like what used to happen in the old days. And, sometimes some people in the country will say, oh, that the slaves were sold off in Africa to begin with. Yeah, we know that, right? And that doesn't make it any better. It doesn't make it any worse. And so, and yes, slavery happened all across the world, and we thought we had eradicated it, and now it's back. And look, there's some form of modern slavery in America where we make our prisoners work for $1 a day, just because $0 a day would be literal slavery. So they're like, okay, we'll give them $1 for a day's work, just so that we technically don't call it slavery. In this case, they're not giving the $1; they're auctioning them off, just like the terrible times have passed.
Now, we have another video we want to show you. This is of a Nigerian man being interviewed by CNN International, talking about his story of being taken into slavery and his eventual escape, thankfully. But a warning, this is an incredibly emotional, tragic tale that he's going to relay in this video. So here it is.
I was sold. On my way from here, I was sold. So after I was sold, they were asking to demand a ransom. The pusherman that put me from Nigeria, I gave him money to not pay. So they said since he's not paid, he did not pay that money. They now sold me. I was there, the person who came to buy me gave the man money. They asked me to pay money, so probably you must have been there for like 3 months. They will start beating you. From a week, they will start beating so that your money will come quickly. So I was there for 8 months before I could pay my money and I went out. Look at most of the people here, if you check their body, you see the man, they're beating with electric, even your boots or they took something like a sharp object. Understand? Most of them lost their lives there. Many are dying every day. No phone call. Their family will be thinking that person is dead. He has lost his life. You know that you just in one place suffering. Going back home now, I'm totally frustrated. I don't know where to start from. Because I spent my life savings living the country. You understand? Going back home, we start together. Most of them are in Europe now. In the business they are doing, most of them have grown up. I go back, I go school. It's very painful. It's very painful. Even when they gave us food here, water, that's not the main problem to me. The main problem to me is how I'm going to start. That's just the main problem. Because I've lost a lot. My mother has lost a lot too. So it's very difficult. All I have to say is that they said the European Union are helping. So in this kind of case, you deporting numbers of people like this, You don't have to deport them with empty-handed. Because if you look at it, you are deporting us. Before we left, we all have a dream. Isn't it? We all have a dream. You understand? Hoping that when we get there, we achieve something. Because a lot of people are going there, even through flight, through land. We see what they achieve. We believe that when we get there, we also achieve more than that. That's how we live.
So, this is the story of people with, as he said at the end, a dream, and that unfortunately, I don't want to use a cliche here, but that turned into a nightmare. And so a lot of them left Nigeria trying to get to Italy and to get to Europe through Libya. And some of them made it and then get deported back, and they lose everything. And in the meanwhile, sold off as slaves, beaten, sexually assaulted, killed, electric shocks, and all their life savings stolen from them. And then they have to go back to where they started and start from square one. It is some chance that if they stayed, that they would be pretty hard workers. Having gone through all of that for freedom, that they might actually live out that dream. But we've decided we're not going to give them that chance. And so it's just super disheartening to see what the world has come to. And I don't know how much people can withstand. So things are boiling over in lots of parts of the world, and they're trying to escape. But these guys who believed in the Western dream, we turn around, and guys like Trump turn around and say, no, they're the bad guys. They're the ones that are causing trouble. No, they're running from trouble. They're running towards freedom and opportunity, and we slam the door shut on them. And it's not just our fault. Obviously, what's happening in Libya doesn't have anything to do with us, and it is abhorrent. And there's a lot of terror in the world. And so, look, just a quick note on the actual CNN exclusive there. I often criticize them, but you got to give credit where credit is due. They did a wonderful job bringing a powerful and important story there. And like I said, the link is in the description box below for the whole video.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you watch a video like that, and I mean, I like to imagine that everyone has to be affected by that. Like, not just progressives, not just people who sort of define themselves by their empathy, but how does a Trump supporter watch that and not feel something for that person? Like, that person has gone through something that none of us can even imagine, potentially. And you can see it on his face experiencing it, and not just, like, he's been beaten for 8 months, a slave, and he's more scared of the future now because he has to go back to a situation that was so bad that he fled from in the first place. And I don't understand how you could watch that and still think the things so many Americans think about migrants, about people trying to get here, and especially if any country should have an easy starting point for understanding the lengths people will go to travel internationally, to start a new life. How can anyone in America not understand that drive? Not understand the people who came to America and were indentured servants, or were slaves, the terrible things that happened to them, how they were economic. I don't understand how people cannot have that. I cannot not have that empathy after watching that. And
because, John, you saw a room full of your fellow human beings. Unfortunately, some people see that room, and that's not what they see. And that's in a lot of ways the phenomenon that allows them to get so abused in wherever they wind up, because people don't empathize them as fellow humans.
Maybe I'm still naive. I know you're probably right, and I know in general, definitely, if you were to tell that story, 35% of the country would say, fuck him, let him die. But if you sat them down in a room and made them watch the video, how can you listen to that person's voice and him telling you his experience and not be affected by it? Look, the sad thing is this is going to continue, and there's various organizations both inside of Libya who are working to extradite Nigerians who are being abused there. There's people who, like, for instance, the African Union chairman, President Alpha Conde of Guinea, demanded prosecutions over the trade, saying it's from another era. That's good. And the Libyan government says that there's an investigation of the slave auctions, but said the international community needed to provide more support if it was going to tackle the problem. And that's where, theoretically, America could be a leader. We could aid made in that situation. Not just in, the slave trades and the abuses and the murders and the rapes that come as a result of the migrant crisis, but could help to resettle those people, could help to stabilize the countries so that people don't feel like they have to flee, possibly at the risk of their own life. We could do all of those things. We will do none of those things. Under Obama, perhaps, there would be some efforts. When you actually had a State Department that had people working there, that cared about the mission and the potential for the U.S. to do some good abroad, but there will be absolutely nothing under Donald Trump, and this will continue.
All right. Let's go to another story that involves tragedy, and I'm going to be a bad guy and say that didn't end so poorly.
Okay, we'll see. A Bosnian war crimes trial took an even darker turn than you would expect based on its subject matter this week. In this video you're about to see, you're going to see Slobodan Praljak, a 72-year-old who had been previously given a lengthy term, wanted to appeal that, and came back into court to find out about what was going to happen to him, and then this happened.
Slobodan Praljak is not a war criminal. I am rejecting the court ruling. Stop, please. Please sit down. I have taken poison.
Monsieur le Président, il vient. Notre client dit qu'il a bu un poison ce matin.
We suspend, please, the curtains.
See there, the judge, completely dumbstruck about what to do in that situation. He drank a vial of poison, said, "I have taken poison," and then later died in hospital from the poison he ingested.
Okay, so he had received a 20-year jail sentence for being a war criminal, because that's what he is. Back in during the Bosnian War of 92 to 95, in the beginning, Bosnian Croats and Bosnian Muslims were fighting against the Serbs. The Serbs had committed atrocities, some of which were deemed a genocide. Srebrenica was deemed a genocide. And in 2013, Praljak's forces committed atrocities, and he did not stop them. And he was sentenced for crimes that happened in the city of Mostar. And nonetheless, when he was sentenced, so he took his poison. And I don't know if you're a war criminal. I don't know if it's an unliberal thing of me, but I don't care. So I think it was Goering during the Nuremberg trials who also took poison, and people were like, "Oh no, that's a shame because what? We were going to hang him anyway." And so I guess it would have been better if we hung him, but he was a war criminal. He was adjudicated as such, and then he died. Same with Praljak. But the Croatian Prime Minister, Plenković, said that it was a deep moral injustice towards 6 indicted Croats from Bosnia and the Croatian people, because no matter what, people defend their own. And yeah, so all those, in that case, Muslims were butchered, and they're like, yeah, but they're not Croats, so who cares? And everybody, not everybody does it, thank God for that, but the ones who do it, of course, the Ottoman government, and then, hey, where did all the Armenians go? Don't care. They're not going to admit it, and they're not going to talk about the genocide, and they're going to protect their own. Now the Croats, when the Muslims are butchered, and it keeps going round and round and round. So when this guy takes the poison and ends his life, it is a dramatic moment, but one I certainly don't shed a tear for.
Yeah. You can say the liberal position is pro-euthanasia. If somebody wants to if they want to take their own life, they can, and I guess he did that. He gave himself the death sentence there. But yeah, it's, as you said, I mean, you see sort of in this person a microcosm of this inability to face what you've done. The belief that either we shouldn't talk about it, or if it was done, for your community during a time of war, is it really a crime anyway? Why are people, being PC in this way when it comes to war crimes?
And it goes it's all across the world. So Columbus does it, and for whatever insane reason, Italian Americans have latched on to Christopher Columbus. I get it through tradition, etc. He wipes out almost, what was it, millions of people.
Huge percentage.
It was unbelievable. So Almost the definition of a genocide. No, Columbus is great. Andrew Jackson, Trail of Tears, marches Native Americans, they die on the way, and his relocation. No, Andrew Jackson's one of us, so he's awesome. So Donald Trump, in commemorating Native Americans who served in World War II and were instrumental in defeating the Nazis, does it in front of an Andrew Jackson picture. Because, no, he's ours. And the present-day Turkish government. Okay. Oh, the Armenians were marched out. Why? Did they decide to up and leave? No, they were marched out because the Turkish government or the Ottoman government at the time, at a bare minimum, allowed it, made it happen, etc. Yeah. What did they just decided to leave their homes? No, but it's because we're Turkish. No, we have to defend it and not admit it. Of course, they're not there anymore. And yes, a lot of them died. Yes, a lot of them died. And so, but no, if you're Turkish, you defend the Turks. If you're Croat, you defend the Croats, and on it goes.
And here in America, we have people who, to this day, try to say slavery, not as bad as you libs try to make it out to be. You know, possibly the darkest stain on our country's past. They try to spin as being an okay thing. There were people, I believe earlier this year, defending the Japanese concentration camps, people who defend the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, we have our own stains, and we have huge swaths of our population that refuse to admit that our history is littered, maybe more than the history of most other countries, with terrible acts of that nature.
And Bill O'Reilly saying, yeah, maybe slaves built the White House, but, they were lucky because they got food and clothing. Yeah, the slaves were so lucky. As long as it's your guys doing it, it's always okay, but it isn't okay. And I wish that we would identify as fellow human beings rather than whatever particular tribe that you happen to come from. Yeah. So the actions of Praljak in the first place were despicable. I'm glad that he was convicted as a war criminal that he is. The actions of the Croatian Prime Minister still defending him today are abhorrent.
Yeah. And it's always good when you see actual war crimes being prosecuted. There are a lot of people walking around in very nice places, even in our country, who have done things far worse. And because they're powerful and they're well-connected, there will be no convictions. Do you want to take a short break before coming back?
Yeah, we got to take a break. We got to do the Matt Lauer story, and then Garrison Keillor, there's so much more. Come right back, guys.
Alright, we got a graphic incoming. Putting up 3, 2, 1. Alright. Video next. And next video. And tile panel. And dropping it.
Brett has a cat. I'm moving away from the controversial stuff we were discussing prior to this going live to talking about pussy. Because it's a pussy cat.
Here's the thing. I think that cats are dumber. Everyone thinks that cats are smarter because they found a way to just like not care about you and have a home and food.
Right.
But cats are stupid. They're like children. Like cats, everything they do, it's like, cat, do you want to take a bath right now?
Yeah.
Because you're fucking gross. And they're like babies and like toddlers. We're like, no, this is how I do it.
Yeah.
I just lick it. And you're like, are you sure that's a good idea? Because I think you might get hair caught in your throat. And the cat's like, no, it's fine. They're stupid. And then like they're just like babies where it's like, I pooped, and then it's like, did you want to poop outside? No, I pooped here. It's fine because I bury it. Like they're idiots. They're like children. And then dogs are like husbands in sitcoms.
Why?
Where they're just like, listen, when do we eat? And I love you for that. Also, I'm going to try to have sex with you. If you don't want it right now, just roll up a newspaper and hit me.
That's so true. Although Charlie never tries to hump me, always tries to hump Christian. But you know what?
Are you jealous by that?
No, I'm not jealous. I just think it's interesting because I think Charlie might be a gay dog, and I love him no matter what.
Welcome back to a whole new season of Murder with Friends, the show where two friends get together and talk about the darker sides of history. You guys know that I go all the way on conspiracy theories, so work with me. How did the police let that happen?
Because they were corrupt at the time. It was like awful, not that they still are. Statistically, we've all met someone who's murdered someone.
It's creepy. You can't talk about a murderer without going back to his origins. It's Murder with Friends. Don't be scared. You're among friends.
Back on the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, John Idarola with you guys. Bernice Panders writes in, some of us who have no vehicle, no local friends or family support, and are disabled for life, net is our only access to the world. And if they cut that access off, man, they're playing with fire. The pitchforks are next, and it's not going to be us. We're not the pitchfork people, but they're behind us, and these guys don't get it. Like, these corporations are slowly squeezing the life out of us. Yeah. Anyway, By the Lake 23 says, genocidal war criminals are the ultimate cowards. Woke Poppy says, you know how Germany is super ashamed of the Nazis and their crimes? America should be ashamed for the Civil War, the Confederate, and for slavery. And so, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like I think the Germans did the best job in dealing with what has happened in the past.
We might disagree with some of the ways they've addressed it.
Mm-hmm. Like in terms of limiting freedom of speech?
Yeah, in some areas.
Okay, maybe the
but they have addressed it.
The pendulum has swung a little too far, but boy, I mean, owning up to it and going in a different cultural path is 1,000 times better than what many of the other countries have done. Japan, Turkey, among others.
Like, imagine if we had a president who owned up to just our experience in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria over the past 2 decades. Like that, we don't have to go back to everything. It's just the immediate terrible things we've done internationally.
Yeah.
And,
okay. Well, I mean, Obama did do it. He briefly said that he talked about how we did the coup in Iran. He froze their democratically elected leader, and the Republicans, the barbarians that they are, said, "Oh, he's doing an apology tour."
Yeah.
No, he's being honest. I know you despise.
I forgot about that, actually.
Yes. All right.
Both parties are still the same, though. Anyway, okay, the big news of the day, perhaps. Matt Lauer, the NBC News morning anchor, was apparently fired this morning, pretty early, over detailed sexual misconduct allegations. Now, there was originally in the morning one set of allegations, and since then, others have come out. Actually, not long before we began this show, 2 additional women came forward about their experiences with Matt Lauer. We're going to have the reactions of some of his co-hosts and co-workers, but first, some of the information about what he is alleged to have done. The first, as the co-host of NBC's Today, Matt Lauer once gave a colleague a sex toy as a present. It included an explicit note about how he wanted to use it on her, which left her mortified. Goes on to say, on another day, he summoned a different female employee to his office and then dropped his pants, showing her his penis.
Oh my God.
After the employee declined to do anything, visibly shaken, he reprimanded her for not engaging in a sexual act. He would sometimes quiz female producers about who they'd slept with, offering to trade names, and he loved to engage in a crass quiz game with men and women in the office called Fuck, Marry, or Kill, in which he would identify the female co-hosts that he'd most like to sleep with. And this is just bizarre. His office was in a secluded space, and he had a button under his desk that allowed him to lock his door from the inside without getting up.
Oh, good God.
These are all at this point allegations, but that seems verifiable.
Come on.
Does he have the button? If he doesn't have the button, that's hard to explain.
There's a whole secret world that apparently we were totally unfamiliar with. And when I say we, I mean, the women who did not suffer it and the men who did not perpetrate it. Like, I don't know, I lived in this, nice suburb and we didn't have weird stuff going on, and I guess I led a secluded life and didn't realize that people locked their doors with a secret button and dropped their pants to their coworkers. That's insane. So look, in varying degrees, and I know some people hate it when we talk about degrees, but degrees do matter, okay? So it's one thing when a New York Times reporter is coming on to women when he's drunk and he kisses them and tries to kiss them, they say no and he backs away. Okay, he's terrible, yada yada. So it's one thing if Matt Lauer is giving a vibrator to a friend and the joke didn't land and it was taken very poorly. It's another thing when he gives a vibrator and says, this is how you should use it on yourself, and it's a coworker. No.
I got something worse, by the way.
It's a third thing when he just drops his pants and he's like, give me something. That's Roger Ailes.
It's like a lot of the other men. They all seem to pull down their pants. Would you like a fourth thing?
Okay, jeez.
So this is one of the complaints that came out later in the day. One complaint came from a former employee who said Mr. Lauer had summoned her to his office in 2001 and then had sex with her. She provided her account to the New York Times, but declined to let her name be used. She told the Times that she felt helpless because she didn't want to lose her job, and that she didn't report the encounter at the time because she felt ashamed. At the time, the woman told her husband, now ex-husband, about the encounter. She also told a friend about it 5 years ago, which the friend also confirms. This is sort of verification that they do. But so this goes beyond harassment. It goes beyond implied threats, jokes, which are bad enough by themselves, to actually using the implied threat of a woman losing her career to force a woman to have sex with you, according to the complaint.
Look, I'm blown away by it. I can't believe how many men did this to women they worked with. So, look, there's some things that have no ambiguity at all. It doesn't matter So, you fuck, marry, and kill. You want to play that game with your friends? People want to joke around, play it on Howard Stern? That's one thing, man. And nobody's going to get into your private life and, hey, what'd you do in your living room with your buddies, right? When you're doing it with people you work with, and they all work with, and you're joking around about women you'd like to sleep with who work under you, not cool. Okay, sleeping with that woman, and maybe Matt in his mind, and I don't know him at all, right, thought, oh no, it was consensual, and not realizing the enormous pressure that he put her under, okay? Even if, alright, so I'm not saying that in any way, don't get me wrong, right? I'm just telling you about different perspectives that maybe that's the excuse he makes to himself, which doesn't justify it in not even 1%. But the part where you go, here, lock the door, drop your pants, here, do this to me. There's no ambiguity. There's no ambiguity there, right? So, it's amazing how much they abuse their power. These guys are on top of the world. You know how much money Matt Lauer made? He made $28 million a year. What are you doing? Don't go get laid on your own time, you idiot. Well, and why are you abusing those poor women that are working underneath you? Why are you doing that? But you know why? It's a power. It must be a power thing. Maybe that we don't understand it because we're not that powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Like they must enjoy the
putting people in a position where they're forced to do something.
Yes. Whether it's Weinstein or Lauer or Ailes or O'Reilly, seems like it's the same story over and over again.
It's like the sex is almost incidental to them. It's the feeling of exertion of power, and it's hard to imagine with the button under the table. And these are what have come out now. Is anyone going to be shocked if tomorrow there's more? Not just of other people, but specifically of Matt Lauer here. Again, I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about the allegations, but it seems like the beginning of a pattern.
Guys, I don't know anything. No, look. The reason I go through all the potential ambiguity is because some people still think it's no big deal, it's no big deal, it's no big deal. Dude, there's a button under his table to lock the door. There's no other explanation for that.
I can guarantee there are no weird buttons under this table.
Yes.
There's your noise machine. That's weird in another way, but it's not threatening necessarily. A lot of buttons on it, though. I don't know what they all do.
Oh, yeah? I think it's weird.
I'm comfortable with that use of that button. Jeez. Okay. Would you like to go on to... Oh, actually, before we move on, just really fast, can we go to this video of Savannah Guthrie, obviously colleague of Matt Lauer, and the experience that she's undergoing.
For the moment, all we can say is that we are heartbroken. I'm heartbroken for Matt. He is my dear, dear friend and my partner, and he is being loved by many, many people here. And I'm heartbroken for the brave colleague who came forward to tell her story, and any other women who have their own stories to tell. And we are grappling with a dilemma that so many people have faced these past few weeks. How do you reconcile your love for someone with the revelation that they have behaved badly? And I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that this reckoning that so many organizations have been going through is important. It's long overdue. And it must result in workplaces where all women, all people feel safe and respected.
So, look, she's in a super tough spot, as a lot of folks have been recently, where you work with somebody, you like them, and then you find out things about them that are very, very uncomfortable and disconcerting.
Yeah.
And so I feel terrible for Savannah Guthrie. Now, Roker later was also quite affected by it. And they've worked with this guy for a long time, and they never experienced the door getting locked on them.
Yeah.
They never experienced the sexual harassment. So to them, he was just a good friend and colleague. And by the way, not everybody had that same experience with Matt Lauer. The person who was there before Savannah Guthrie felt like he ran an all-boys club, and they did not get along, and that he felt that she pushed him out, but nothing along these lines, right? And so I just always feel bad for the people because, like Sarah Silverman said, what am I going to do? This is terrible. But when she was talking about Louis C.K., but he's my friend, and I don't know how to resolve that.
I've known him for years or decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I often wonder, like, every murderer has people who know them. I mean, how do you reconcile what you thought about this person who might be a relative of yours or a friend of yours or a coworker of yours with what they've done? And especially, I mean, like, when it's clearly predatory, that there's a sort of system, that there's a button under the desk, that there's a pattern going on, that could have been going on while you were working with this person. How do you go through that? I don't understand how, like, you feel like you know the person, you've built up this relationship, you've built up a trust, and so that's got to be difficult on top of obviously the far worse experience of the people who are victimized by these people. And then finally, Andy Cohen had asked Katie Couric back in 2012, what's Lauer's most annoying habit, because they worked together for a long time. And Katie Couric's not the person I'm referring to. Ann Curry was the one who said that Lauer had kind of pushed her out and ran a boys' club. But Katie Couric said about his most annoying habit, quote, he pinches me on the ass a lot. Now, if he's doing that to Katie Couric, who's super powerful, who was his co-anchor, maybe we shouldn't be overly surprised by what he was doing to non-powerful women. Yeah, everybody in every office is having conversations about what's acceptable based on how you know people. There are people who feel like they're very close friends with their coworkers, and so maybe some things are more appropriate. At a certain point, though, some things, like when you're literally pinching a person's ass, that's hard to imagine how that can feel justified. Let's go on to more then. Okay. Matt Lauer wasn't the only media figure who lost their job today over reports of sexual misconduct. We also have Minnesota Public Radio's Garrison Keillor, who also had all business ties to that organization, severed earlier today. This is the creator and retired host of A Prairie Companion, who hosted that show for several decades. I was not personally, did not know about this person, but apparently very high profile. Let's see. He said earlier today that he has been fired by Minnesota Public Radio over allegations of what the network calls improper behavior. And eventually, later on in the day, put out a statement about some information. Earlier, he had said that this is a more interesting and complicated situation, that they know that he had some sort of private information. Well, now we have a little bit of that information. He said this: I meant, talking about one woman, I meant to pat her back after she told me about her unhappiness, and her shirt was open, and my hand went up it about 6 inches. She recoiled. I apologized. I sent her an email of apology later, and she replied that she had forgiven me and not to think about it. We were friends. We continued to be friendly right up until her lawyer called. And he continued saying, if I had $1 for every woman who asked to take a selfie with me and who slipped an arm around me and let it drift down below the belt line, I'd have at least $100. So this is poetic irony of a high order, but I'm just fine. I had a good long run, and I'm grateful for it and for everything else.
So, impossible to know. So, the Matt Lauer story that also came out today seems fairly clear, with the button under the desk to lock the door when somebody comes in and dropping his pants, etc. I don't know if Garrison Keillor is telling the whole truth there about just, hey, it was an innocent pat on the back. If he is, then I'm on his side. But that's only one side of a story, and, lawyers will tell you the only thing worse than no sides of a story is one side of a story. And so we haven't heard out the woman or women. I don't know in this case. So it might be worse than that. And by the way, yeah, just because your ass has been grabbed doesn't mean you're allowed to grab other people's asses.
That's weird logic.
Yeah.
To think that,
look, I understand what he's saying. He's like, look, it's not like I went to prosecute those 100 women who grabbed my ass. Yes, but that's your prerogative. You chose not to do that. That doesn't mean that you get to do it to others.
Exactly. Now, timing-wise, we don't know for sure that this was the thing that spurred the accusations against him. But I believe 2 days ago, he did publish an article. If we bring up that screenshot. The article is, Al Franken should resign? That's absurd. And one section, I'm not going to read the entire thing, you can find it, but one section of that opinion piece reads, on the flight home, in a spirit of low comedy, Al ogled Miss Tweeden and pretended to grab her and a picture was taken. 11 years later, a talk show host in LA, she goes public and there's talk of resignation. This is pure absurdity, and the atrocity it leads to is a code of public deadliness. No kidding. That's a strong take on that. Mm-hmm. And it does appear, these are not causal things, but very often some of these men, especially in media, who have been found to have engaged in sexual misconduct, will have spoken out against women who make accusations in the past. I mean, I believe, I'm not going to say specifics, but I believe there were some other cases of that, and this is apparently one of them. It could be that they're feeling, when they see these accusations being made, when they're seeing careers being ended, they start to think back on their past, and they wonder if theoretically they could be the next one.
No, in this case, he was. Whether he's right that it was unjust for Franken and himself, or he's completely wrong, and they both did it a number of times. In the case of Franken, I don't know if the editorial came out before or after we found out there were 2, 3, 4 women who claimed, had other claims against them, including, again, grabbing their ass, etc. And we can't adjudicate all these, so I don't know. I do know of what appeared to be a more innocent time of the kind of times that he talked about at Prairie Home. But it turns out those times were not more innocent. In a lot of ways, they were more guilty. We just didn't know about it. So now we do, and then he reacts like, damn it, why are we going on this witch hunt? Yeah. And some people will be wrongly accused, and it will be terrible, and if he was complaining about that, he'd be right. But if it turns out that he did do it, and now we know that Franken did do it on several occasions, then it's not a terrible thing. It's a disinfectant. It's a light that shows you what was going on when we were pretending that everything was fine back at Prairie Home.
Yeah. I will say I'm going to be super careful about this, but in that same vein of the possibility that people are projecting out about these accusations, worried about what might happen to them, there is a personality who appears on Fox News who did a long tweet storm, incredibly detailed, about their concerns about how women are going crazy accusing people. So that might make some news later on. I'm going to be super careful, but it was an interesting display earlier today.
Okay, so as we, guys, for the online audience, we are going to come back and do one quick segment because we promised you Trump against Scarborough and the dead intern and all that. So we're going to do that in just about a minute or so. For the radio audience, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Of course, if you join at tytnetwork.com/joining, you get the show anytime without commercials and get the whole show. And everybody go to justdemocrats.com/Allison and wolf-pack.com/John. To go help those causes. All right, we'll be right back for the internet audience. Back on the Young Turks. Unregistered Chicano writes in, meanwhile, a sexual predator masquerading as president. Judgment tweets about other scandals. Well, we're going to tell you about that in a second because that's the one we're going to talk about, Scarborough. But in the meanwhile, speaking of a monster tweeting, John called it an hour ago. Look at this.
I called it, but I really deserve no credit because it's just a knee-jerk reaction. So Theresa May put out a fairly benign statement about Donald Trump randomly tweeting out Islamophobic videos. I said that he would attack her, and 25 seconds ago he tweeted, at Theresa May, don't focus on me, focus on the destructive radical Islamic terrorism that is taking place within the United Kingdom. We are doing just fine. well, if we're doing just fine, then maybe we don't need the wall. I guess we're okay.
We're the Muslim ban.
And so that was one tweet. God only knows what he will tweet about her in the near future.
No, John, you're not being fair to yourself. You called it an hour ago on the show.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yes. No, that's a told you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a solid. That's a solid ass told you.
Okay. My predictions in elections suck, but told you's doing pretty well. Focus on yourself. We're doing okay.
Okay.
In our predictions.
So, all right, guys. 2 quick updates before we give you the last story. JustDemocrats.com/Allison. Can I see one? No, it has barely moved. $3 more, I think, since the last time we showed it. 180,545. I was hoping to see 181 by the end of the show. I would still love to see that. Don't forget, of course, over jdems.us/TYT3 to help Alexandria, Ocasio-Cortez, Cory Bush, and Chardo as well fight against some corporate Democrats and then Republicans too. And then let me see, wolf-pack.com/John. No, that's also just at 58 donors, exactly where we started. Okay.
Maybe the graphic hasn't been updated.
Okay. Wolfpack is trying to get money out of politics. They need to hire guys like John so they could do that. We could put up as many as 5 states this year, but we need some soldiers out there. So that's why it's not this John. Wolf-pack.com/John to get him on the Wolfpack team.
I don't know much about him, but on name alone, seems like a good guy.
On name alone. Okay, all right. What's next?
Okay, one more story for you. As news broke this morning about Matt Lauer, Donald Trump lost his mind and started tweeting about Matt Lauer, but also about other members of the media that he would like to see fired. Not just the actual people on TV, but the executives as well at some of these channels that he doesn't like because they have the gall to criticize the President of the United States. And then he went even farther than that, going from wanting people in the media to be fired to potentially being put in prison, not for criticizing him specifically, but for murder. So he tweeted this. So now that Matt Lauer is gone, when will the fake news practitioners at NBC be terminating the contract of Phil Griffin? Which, that's enough for one tweet. But he goes on. And will they terminate low ratings Joe Scarborough based on the unsolved mystery that took place in Florida years ago? Investigate! They don't need to investigate because people already investigated about that unsolved murder. So this is the conspiracy theory that the right wing seems to have about Joe Scarborough, that he murdered one of his interns in Florida years ago. He's referencing Laura Clausidis, 28-year-old office staffer who worked for Scarborough when he was a representative from Florida. Clausidis was found dead in the congressman's district office in July 2001. At the time, a local medical examiner investigated, ruled the death an accident, saying Clausidis had collapsed and hit her head on the side of a desk. She had an undiagnosed heart condition, according to the medical examiner, and the head trauma caused a fatal blood clot.
Okay, so or they would have you believe that. In reality, she died on the set of the moon landing that didn't happen.
It's already a tragedy that she died at all, in this circumstance or otherwise. But that's not good enough for them.
So there's a bunch of twists in this story. And number one, the Republicans used to go apoplectic if you mention Scarborough's intern. And I never did because the medical examiner said she died of the blood clot, okay? And so there's a million things to criticize Scarborough on. That isn't one of them. But the right wing would defend him. Now, the dear leader has said that we will now attack Scarborough. So the right wing now comes, oh, yeah, that intern, of course, of course. Yeah, unsolved mystery, right? So, and now they're attacking Joe Scarborough's brother, who's apparently a giant Trump fan. Yeah, George Scarborough, who nobody had, of course, heard of him. Yeah, and he's like, yeah, but I know my brother didn't murder the intern, so, oh, now it affects you. So now that it finally affects you, I mean, he'd been bashing your brother all along, but now that he's basically called your brother a murderer, you're finally like, oh,
and he's okay with them on the policy stuff.
Yeah,
that's exactly what JR thought your position would be.
Yeah,
and it's totally true.
Oh wait, this one affects me. When he hated Muslims, I loved it. When he hated Latinos, I loved it. When he hated black people, I loved it. Oh, you're calling my brother a murderer. Yeah. Oh, it's a slight bridge too far.
There's too many conspiracies. People are getting things confused and mixed up. Joe Scarborough didn't kill his intern. Ted Cruz's father killed Joe Scarborough's intern. Obviously, Joe Scarborough has an alibi. He was busy killing Seth Rich. How do people confuse all these things?
No,
I'm joking about things that are tragedies. I understand that. But it's because people have lost their goddamn minds. Sometimes people die, and it's just a tragedy. It's not a conspiracy.
No, look, Donald Trump's a lunatic. He thinks Ted Cruz is horrible, horrible politician. I can't stand Ted Cruz. but he thinks that Ted Cruz's dad killed JFK. You have to be absolutely insane to believe that. Only a lunatic would believe that. And so millions upon millions of Americans voted for a lunatic who belongs in an insane asylum.
And he didn't say it. He didn't say these crazy things after. And he didn't just say it during the election. He has been peddling conspiracy theories for literally years. But we as a country have never been good at telling truth from falsehoods. And we're getting way worse at it. Way worse. Because of the ways we self-select in the media, and the fact that we down on education constantly, the way we defund it. But this is on top of the Joe Scarborough stuff. In addition to that, recently, I just read this today, Maggie Haberman, we referred to one of these recently. Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Martin of the New York Times reported that they've spoken with people who have spoken with the president recently. And recently, he has multiple times regularly asserted that Obama's birth certificate is fake. Not in 2013. He's doing that now.
No, the guy's lost his mind.
He won the popular vote, and that the Access Hollywood tape that he apologized for is fake. It was doctored. It didn't actually happen.
No, he has a mental condition, man. One, he's preposterously dumb. Two, he's a lunatic. Three, he's a pathological liar. He cannot help himself. So this is the same guy that Scarborough that he was in love with before. Oh, Scarborough, oh yeah, you're tremendous, you're awesome. And then Scarborough turns up, you're terrible, you're a murderer, blah, blah, blah. And look, and in this topsy-turvy world, he gets me to defend guys I can't stand. Like Ted Cruz's father, who thinks that Jesus picked Ted Cruz to lead the country. Then who picked Trump? Anyway, so
I got an idea.
Yeah, all right. And then Scarborough, I can't stand Scarborough, but between Scarborough and the lunatic, okay, I'm going Scarborough.
Yeah.
Hey, lesser of two evils. Okay, for Christ's sake. Anyway, and then Phil Griffin. Phil Griffin and I don't get along. That's, I think, really, for the people who know it, common knowledge because of how I left MSNBC. But why is he blaming Phil Griffin for Matt Lauer? Matt Lauer's at NBC. Phil Griffin runs MSNBC. Matt Lauer doesn't work for Phil Griffin. Those things are not remotely connected. Yeah. Oh, but I don't like MSNBC. Phil Griffin's the problem. Why don't we? And then you're talking about investigate Scarborough. What is this fascist going to do? I mean, he asked the Justice Department.
He has the power to investigate people.
Yeah, he asked the Justice Department to interfere and do a political investigation of Hillary Clinton, and they are now considering it. Are they going to consider an investigation of Joe Scarborough next? Because now we're doing political investigation. So this is how fascism begins.
You investigate your political opponents and you investigate those in the media. You pack the courts on the side as well. That's also going on. But like, as much as this is conspiracy theories, this is a multi-tweet, and it's not the only time he's done it, but it's the latest attack against people in the media who criticize him. And potentially with governmental consequences. He can actually do something about Joe Scarborough if he wants to, but he regularly attacks those who have the gall to criticize him. Even light criticisms. It's not like Joe Scarborough is like John Olivering him on a regular basis. Look, he just doesn't support him anymore, and that makes him a murderer.
Look, guys, so there's plenty of reasons to impeach him already, but the open question, a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on that. But if he goes to pardon anyone that is part of the investigation of him, so pardoning Mike Flynn, pardoning Manafort, any of those guys, he should be immediately impeached. If he imprisons any of his political opponents, he should be immediately impeached. And if he imprisons anyone in the media who he perceives to be an opponent, he should be immediately impeached. Because if you don't immediately impeach him, you then say it's okay. And then Katie bar the door, because that means he can imprison anyone he doesn't like. And then we've lost our democracy completely. So as insane as these tweets are against Scarborough, it is a very, very serious matter. We cannot let this go any further.
Yeah. I will say this. This is aside from that topic, totally different. I don't want to die ever, but if I die here, I like you guys, so dump my body somewhere, because I don't want to be a liability in terms of conspiracy theories for you later on. So just like throw me into a lake or something, because if I die here, take down the whole damn thing.
Okay, Jesus Christ. All right.
I don't want to cause trouble.
All right. When we come back for the members, a rare post game where it's John and I. So John's on the show a lot, but since he normally doesn't make it to the end, he's almost never in a post game.
I'm not often.
He's not going to die in the studios. He is going to make it to the end. Okay. So we'll have we'll finally switch it up a little bit and have a little bit of fun in the post game. TYTnetwork.com/join to join us. Bye bye.
Yes.